Hey, Walking Dead heads, this is Dylan. Thank you for joining us today for the Broken Dead, or me rather. And today I am talking The Walking Dead, Season 11, Episode 4. So I've got some great news, teasers, spoilers, and speculation for what's to come. This is The Broken Dead. All right, guys, like I said, thanks for joining me. Talking The Walking Dead today. Excuse me. If you're new to the show or if you're coming back, we appreciate you joining us. Whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, thanks for joining us along for the ride, and we hope that you'll join us every week at 10 p.m. Standard or Central Standard Time. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the little bell icon so that you know when we drop a new video or when we go live. Also, check out the website at www.broken.pictures.com. So, excuse me. All right, just got a text from my daughter that everything sounds good. Because apologize. This past episode we did for the FOMO show on Thursday, you might be able to hear the background noise. Last week, some of the settings got reset, and it was just like screaming, and it was the same voices, same volume as our voices, and it was just horrendous, and we didn't catch it. So she's checking it on me. Thank you so much for checking on me for that. Checking on that for me. Can't talk tonight. So, just a couple of housekeeping things. Obviously, Quin is not here tonight. He had to work once again. But as far as I know, he will be back next week. Also, I'm going to cut it kind of short tonight. As you can tell, I'm still kind of dealing with just the after effects of having COVID over 2 weeks ago. I finished my quarantine over 2 weeks ago, and man, I'm telling you, it is. I'm fully vaccinated. I work in the schools, so I wear my mask, and every time I'm in public and everything. But Delta is no joke, man, the symptoms are crazy, and they stick around with you. And I still get tired, and I'm still having coughing so much I'm giving myself headaches sometimes, and it's just not having a good day today. So not feeling too well. Although I'm not contagious, I don't have a fever or anything like that. So it's just some of those symptoms kind of hang around with you. Really sucks. So please get vaccinated, wear your mask, and be safe and all that kind of stuff for the sake of your family and your friends. So to jump right in, let's go ahead and give you your spoiler alert. From this point on, we could cover spoilers in this episode. So if you have not seen episode 4, Rendition, then it's time to pause it, and we'll see you next time. So next, we're going to get into the Walking Dead universe news. This is just to kind of cover what's going on in the greater Walking Dead universe. Some people follow this pretty wholeheartedly. Some people, I'm kind of in the middle. I'm interested at where it's going and everything, so I'm kind of keeping up with it, obviously, for the show reasons and stuff like that, too. But right now, I got to be honest, it's a little weird. Just because the way AMC is releasing episodes. So this is the final season. There's 3 parts. We're smack dab in the middle of part 1. However, if you have AMC Plus, you are getting access to the episodes a full week before everybody else. And some people online are respecting that. Some people are not at this point. I'm seeing episode 5 dropped on AMC Plus today. But episode 4 aired on AMC, the channel, So, and they're, as far as the way they're addressing it, they're treating it as this is episode 4 day. So that's how we're treating it as of right now, anyways, depending on how things go. I don't know. It's just a weird situation. But it is what it is, and we're going to make the best of it. So, yeah. Let's see. As far as spinoffs go, man, there's a lot of spinoffs, not a whole lot of spinoff news. Of course, you know, the World Beyond trailer dropped last week that teased Jadis's return, and the World Beyond and Fear have kind of been working towards information about where Rick is and these communities where he was taken and all this kind of stuff. So it's interesting, and I, be honest, if you watch this show, you know that I gave up on Fear several seasons back, way back before they remixed the cast and it got good again, and they brought Morgan in and everything. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch. I keep saying that, but I still haven't done it, to be honest. So there are just a lot of spin-offs that The Walking Dead is wanting to do. Of course, we got the Rick Grimes movie, we got the Daryl Carroll spin-off coming, we've got The Walking Dead Origins, which is an AMC Plus exclusive thing where they're going to go in and just kind of cover, like, retrace some of the steps and have some of the actors come back and kind of tell what was going on in the story and stuff like that. So it's not really like a big deal unless you like the behind the scenes stuff. Then there's Tales of the Walking Dead, and that could have some of old cast members come back and follow their stories and actually see new content following certain characters. That could be really interesting. For example, catching up with Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene before they met the group. So that kind of thing could be interesting. And then there's a direct spinoff of Fear called Dead in the Water that they're working on. That kind of covers like the submarine and things like that. So, like I said, I'm not too up on Fear, but I'm generally aware of what's going on. And then there's supposedly a comedy spinoff coming, which is not so much to parody The Walking Dead itself, even though there's a lot they could do for that. Of course, they don't want to, hack away at their own tree, I guess. But I'm not sure how they're gonna do a whole lot of comedy in the apocalyptic scenario where people are dying and getting eaten by zombies, and I don't know. I don't know who's coming up with this stuff, but it's out there, and that's what they're yeah. However, some new information. Jeffrey Dean Morgan did say that he is interested in the idea of a Negan spinoff. He would be more interested in, if Negan survives season 11, just seeing where he goes forward and where he ends up and all that kind of stuff. However, as far as like retracing old stories, not really so much interested in that, unless it was to kind of tell how the Saviors formed and he became leader of the Saviors, since we saw on the Here's Negan episode kind of where he came from. So of course, we got Fear and the World Beyond, which will be airing, coming back in October. The World Beyond will be season 2, its final season. And so now into this Walking Dead Prime, season 11, episode 4, titled Rendition. The description says Daryl and Dog get captured by the Reapers, taken to the Meridian. They reconnect with a familiar figure from their past. Of course, no secret is the worst kept secret in Walking Dead dumb that Sorry, somebody's car alarm is going off outside. But yeah, worst kept secret. Everybody knew this was Leah. So Angela Kang said that this was planned from the beginning when we first saw her in season 10, and which I mean, to me it just seems like filler, to be honest with you, because I mean, I don't know. I guess they're trying to make Daryl more of the leading man, which is odd because I don't know if I mean I enjoy seeing Daryl's growth, but I don't know, that's just not Daryl. You know what I mean? Even this whole time, he just, I mean, and what about Connie? So I don't know what's gonna happen. Plus, this woman is she's toxic. Yeah, she's not a good match for our boy Daryl. So obviously on this episode, we open up at the middle of the fight, just like we did, last week, and we focused on Maggie. This time we focused on Daryl, where he went and all that kind of stuff. And he kind of chases down a Reaper. And of course, you know, Gabriel went the other way, chased down his own Reaper, and Maggie and Negan ended up finding Maggie's people and all that kind of stuff last episode. And we saw what happened, where Gabriel went as well. This one was specifically about Daryl. We didn't really we didn't veer at all off of him. And so he goes off, and you know, like I said last week, it was an interesting lighting choice to kind of focus on one character. I know that there's always been a running complaint about how dark and dim The Walking Dead can get, that sometimes it's really, really difficult to see what's going on, even though you have to like play with the settings on your TV or whatever. This one, I don't know if it was like directly answering that or dealing with that, but they did spotlight like in a very interesting and unusual way, like the characters, and just kind of follow them around. They're making a lot of different and interesting choices. I'm saying interesting to be kind, because I don't really like to just hack away and be critical of somebody else's work because they've put they've put a lot of time into that, and it's just I would do it differently, and that would, I just don't agree or see the point in that. And some of it is, to just be honest, is just a bad choice, or maybe they thought it was going to be a fun choice or interesting choice. And you get, and I mean, I've worked on films before, in several different capacities, and sometimes you have an idea and it seems like it's going to work, but then when you see it on screen, it just didn't work the way you hoped it would. And maybe that's a thing, but it's hard to be like, if you're a run and gun and you're a low budget, like, I get that, but if you're The Walking Dead and you're a multi-million-dollar production that's been running for 10 years, and like, I get there are things you want to try and be new and experimental and all that kind of stuff, but man, there's a whole lot riding on not getting it right for, you know, a show like this. And you've got so many people invested, and it's just, you can't really get it wrong. You just can't. There's just not a whole lot of leeway there. So it sucks. So typically we rate the episode at the very beginning, and the first time I watched it as a fan, I just sat down and I watched it without my notes, just to kind of sit, you know, and take it in. And I was like, man, this is a really interesting episode, and I really liked it. I mean, there was a couple things that stood out to me, like the lighting or a couple other things I'll get into later, that just kind of like, But overall, I thought it was an interesting episode, and it was fun to see Daryl and get to follow the people that we care about, you know, and not have them acting in a crazy way like last week with Maggie acting. She's not even Maggie at this point. She's a different iteration of the character. And say hello to Ghost back here. He's joining me for the episode. Usually joins me in here. He's a good boy. He's got my own dog. So it was fun to see Daryl being Daryl, because that's the tricky part with television, is, you know, you got fans falling in love with these characters, and you have to have a character arc. You have to see them grow. You know, I mean, this isn't just like an episodic comedy multi-camera show where, or single camera audience type sitcom where there's not really any character growth, and it's the same archetypes dealing with certain things. Daryl obviously is an archetype, but in shows like this that are more rooted, more grounded, more story driven, we would hope, there is an arc that has to happen. Otherwise, you're just making circles. And but at the same time, it's tricky because you have to do that, yet they can't lose the essence of who that character is. And which is really, I mean, yes, I'm a Marvel fanboy, but testament to Robert Downey Jr. and how he kept that going with Iron Man, Tony Stark, when we first saw him, you know, just brazen, brash, and all that kind of stuff, and over time, and receives the challenge to, you know, you're not the guy to jump on the grenade and do the thing and 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 then of course by the end, he is still Tony Stark. He's still himself, but he has grown tremendously as a character, and and I think that we have seen that, of course. Maybe not to the same extent, but and it's different because we don't see Tony Stark as much as Daryl either, but we have seen that type of growth with Daryl, to where he has gone from this racist hick boy at the very beginning, with you know, just insecure and fights everybody at the drop of a hat, where he's a drug head and all this kind of stuff. And now he is a leader in the community, and he has grown, yet he still retains the essence of being Daryl. He's still that character. He's not a remix of that, you know what I mean? He's still himself. So that it was really interesting to see in this episode. However, the more I dug into it, the more I thought about it, watching it again, it's just not so much on Daryl's end, but the writing of the episode and some the choices, I just hard to get on board with. Just like some of the writing and some of the cyclical nature of this show. You know, it's you know, even just watching breakdowns from other people who love this show, it's just, they just sound exasperated, like everybody's just tired of watching the same stuff, and what's new, what's interesting, show me something. And I really thought, like, this episode had so much potential, but I think it's starting to fall into the trope that many horror stories fall into, which is just, it falls into the jump scares or the tropes and all these different things, and really just lets the story and the character development fall to the wayside. And it's just not good writing. and it's almost like watching a video game where you expect like these heightened versions of these characters and these little cinematics to come in and wow, 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 you know, and all this stuff, and not really complex people, you know. So like I said last week when we first saw Pope, it was like all it's like I said, I'm a Marvel fanboy. All I could see was Trevor Slattery. Like, you'll never see me coming. It's like that's all I could see when I saw Pope, and it's just the more I see him, I go back and forth because, like, man, they did some really interesting things with this character, but the more I think about it, it's like, okay, these guys have been mercenaries in, all right, before the fall, and in this kind of, maybe they'll tie it into the Commonwealth or something, but it's like, how, I don't know. I just, when you've got like military people that go, they're like, their job is to go, especially mercenaries. They don't go in necessarily and set up camp. It's not what they do. They're not a conquering force. They go in, they jack shit up, and they kill people, and they upset a situation, and then they get out. And like, they have an objective. They get in, they hit it, and they get out. And it's kind of confusing to see what is going on here with these Reapers, because they obviously operate very much like a military mercenary force, in the way they function. But I mean, is the Meridian, is that their headquarters? Like, do they have a headquarters? Do they operate out of a headquarters? And the way Pope is, you know, we don't run from a fight, we don't turn our backs, so much so that he's killing one of his own people, and they only got like 12 to 15 people in the first place, and you're gonna just burn one to make a point. Somebody who just carried a guy for 10 miles, you're just gonna, oh, that doesn't change anything. We run to the fight. It's like, in the apocalypse like this, how do you maintain that type of mentality for over a decade and still have people that you worked with before the fall? Like, how? Because there are people, other groups out there that you're going to come in. Are you telling me that these guys are so badass that every group they've come up against, they've just dominated? I'm not seeing it. I don't necessarily believe that. So, I mean, it is an interesting thing. I mean, but at this point in the apocalypse, 10 years in, it's hard to buy, you know, that these people are still able to function like that and still. I mean, we don't know. I don't know enough about them, I guess. Just, I mean, because for 10 years, if this guy Pope is flying off the handle and killing people because they got scared or run away or didn't perform in the way he thought, and also tying in the whole God aspect where, you know, God's angry, I'm angry, go show them our wrath. You know, it's like there's obvious like a cult leader type mentality there going on, and over the course of 10 years, keeping this up, it just does not seem plausible to me. It just does not seem plausible. I don't know. I mean, in I don't know, just in this situation, I'm sorry, it just doesn't seem that plausible to me. And I have been in like a cult of personality groups where you were blacklisted, or if you could not speak against this person or that person because you would get called in and get chewed out, or there again you would lose a privilege or whatever, you know. Hey Keith, how's it going? Thanks for jumping in the chat there. It's one of my buddies from my hometown. But yeah, it just doesn't, I don't know, even myself having been in that type of thing, it's like, I mean, he's keeping them safe, there's that, but these are very capable people. And I don't know, I don't know. Nobody's tried to challenge him, and every time they've gone up against something, they've won. For a decade, you tell me in a decade they've had no L's, and he's been able to keep this mindset that we're the chosen ones and we come out unscratched and unscathed for 10 years. I don't know. It just doesn't fly. And because he seems pretty eager to throw people to the wolves. Like, I mean, telling Leah that she was one of his favorites, and then locking her in the house with Daryl. Like, I mean, of course he'll try to spin it, you know, because that's what those type of people do. He'll try to spin it and be like, I believed in you so much. I knew you were going to get out. That's the only reason I did it. I would never put you in danger unless I knew that you were. I mean, of course he's going to say that, because that's what those people do. But I don't know. So it's just as far as like writing goes and stuff like that. In the very beginning, when Daryl is chasing down his Reaper, and he's got Dog, and it's dark, and they come up on this corner, and they're waiting for a Reaper to come down the sidewalk or whatever, down the side of the building, and their shadows are cast off the side in plain view of the Reaper. Yet he just like throws something, and the Reaper is just like, oh, whoa. And you're telling me these are mercenaries? These are trained killers? These are soldiers? Man, I was in Police Explorers, which was like Cub Scout, like Boy Scouts for police kids that we went to the academy like every summer for a week, and we ran scenarios, and we did all this. We met once a week, and we went through all these things, and we like being aware of our surroundings, and being observant, and running all these different types of scenarios. And we did competitions up against other squads and stuff like that. And I was in it for, duck beneath the thing. I got that too big on there. So I was in there from like when I was 14 till I turned 18. So like 4 years, and I ended up being like the captain of my squad and stuff like that. But like, just as a Boy Scout police wannabe as a teenager, like, I knew to look out for stuff like that. And you're telling me that in the apocalypse, this trained mercenary that is always on guard and lives in a group of mercenaries, that he didn't see the shadows like acting funky out in front of him, that were in the shape of a guy that they're looking for. And I don't know. It was silly to me, like that, things like that. It feels like the show is now being written by people who, oh, you know, it'd be cool, let's do that, instead of like it used to be, where it was like you're watching people and they're learning how to survive, and some of these survival things like they had to do, you know, it might actually work, or at least seems plausible that it might work in the wild or in survival or something like that. And just, I don't know, in wartime, and you're fighting a soldier, and Daryl's no soldier. I mean, he's been in some scraps over the decade, and he can handle his own. But yeah, I'm not buying that. Somebody that was in Afghanistan, that was in a situation where you're dealing with people that could come out of any doorway off the top of a building or whatever, and get you, and you have to be hyper aware. Yeah, that didn't fly with me. And so then he gets in a fight and he throws Dog and all this stuff, and of course Dog's okay, and then Dog chooses Leah over Daryl, which was another thing that was just like, yeah, I know dogs are dogs, but this dog is a trained dog. Like, he's a trained dog, and he's been with Daryl for years and hasn't seen Leah. So I mean, I get why he might recognize Leah and be happy to see her, but when Daryl says let's go, I don't think that he's just gonna sit there. Like my dog Ghost is very well behaved. I mean, we're not like in the apocalypse and he has to obey or he's dead type thing. But like when I let him in the backyard and he starts fighting with the neighbor's dogs, like, he's very, very obedient. And if he gets carried away and I snap my fingers or shout his name a couple times, he snaps out of it and he drops it and he comes to me immediately. And I mean, it's just, yeah. I'm sorry. Some of these things, it just seems forced, and it's just not good writing. So I mean, I hate to have an episode where I just hate on stuff the entire time, but then another thing where Daryl goes the next day after he's lost Ghost, or not Ghost, my dog's name's Ghost. After he's lost Dog, and he goes and covers himself with the walker guts. Why is he doing that? Like, what is the reason? Like, when you're writing, everything has to have a reason, and there was no answer to this. Was it just, I mean, were we just supposed to know that maybe, I don't know, maybe he thought that, I don't know. It just seems like this show is become too reliant on having a show to follow up afterwards to explain everything to people. And that is lazy, and it's lazy writing. And so if you don't watch The Talking Dead afterwards, it's just like, okay, what is happening? Why did he just do that? And even just that right there has also been one of my continuing complaints, where in The Walking Dead, it was consistent even up until the point where Carl lost his eye, and they were trying to get through the walkers, and it was like this kid kept like saying something, and that caused them all to jump on them. Like, they were still covered in guts. Like they were like covered. And at the same time, fear was happening, and they would just like put a little blood on their face and just walk among them. And it was just like this watered down version of The Walking Dead. And that feels like what we're at now, whereas Daryl's just like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to put any on my clothes, just a little bit on my skin here. And I mean, and maybe over time they've realized that it doesn't take a whole lot of guts, that it just takes a little bit to cover up your scent or whatever. But there's been no explanation. There's been no, oh, hey man, you don't really need that much. Just conserve or something like that. Like, that makes sense in Survivor when you're trying to survive in an apocalypse. Like, conserve energy, conserve water when you're waterboarding somebody. Or, I mean, unless they're in a situation like Alexandria and they've got a well and all this kind of stuff happening. There's just a lot of, when you read between the lines, there's a lot of things that are just, it just doesn't hold up. Like, on the surface, the show has just become a paper tiger. And this episode in particular, just like, I mean, like the first watch through, it was like, oh, okay, this is fun, this is interesting, it's good. But man, it falls apart quick. It just falls apart fast. So I mean, we'll see where the show goes. I'm just not happy with it right now, and that might just be because I've had a bad day and I don't feel well, and I'm just grumpy. But I mean, that's just where it's at right now, and it's just I'm really disappointed in. I'm just really disappointed in the show right now, where they've kind of, I hate to say, sold out for what looks cool, and like situations like where right after Daryl at the very beginning, right after Daryl is fighting with this Reaper, and the Reaper throws Dog, and the Reaper, I don't know, Daryl dealt with him or something, but like he turns, and so like 3 more walk up on him, and one of them's Leah, and he slowly stands up with his back turned to these people who are like just killers, and people that have been tracking him and hiding, and they've built up and all this stuff, and he's got his back turned on him, and just slowly pulls out a knife and whips around and throws his knife and runs away, and didn't even hit anybody, but just because somebody thought that would look cool on screen. It's like, you have to earn that, you know what I mean? It's like yeah, you can absolutely do crap that looks good on screen. Absolutely, please do. But earn it. Don't cheapen it. Don't make it in something. Don't let it be something you haven't thought through and makes sense for the character and in the situation. It was like, who's gonna stand up? Just like, it's just like watching these fighting movies where it's 10 on 1, and one dude just takes on one dude at a time, and everybody just patiently waits their turn to fight the guy. It's like, that's The Walking Dead was never that type of show. It was always based in some kind of reality, and it just feels like it's regressed. It's like, okay, we're just going to reinvent the show. You know what? We're based on a comic book, so we don't have to be, good writing or realistic anymore. We're just going to go stylistic, and which would have been fine from the beginning if that's what it was. But it's an established universe, and it's an established show, and it just doesn't fly. I don't know. Just, yeah. Location that they went to just really looked like Terminus. It probably wasn't Terminus, but I understand that you are location scouting in a very small area, and when you're outside Atlanta and you've been there for 10 years and you've got to make things look good or whatever, but one of the features of Terminus was that smokestack, and you're going to leave the camera and make that smokestack obviously you're going to make that smokestack stand out by keeping the camera on it for a moment. And it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because it just looks very, very familiar, and that's, I don't know. I didn't like it. The more I think about it, the more upset I get about it. And I'm sorry that I know that this show is not making it easy for me to like right now. And I love nonsense popcorn action movies if I go in with the understanding that's what it is, but you can't switch it up halfway and decide. You can't start out being Jason Bourne and then go into being a Jackie Chan movie. You know what I mean? It's like, you have to be consistent. You have to stick with the universe you've built. Otherwise, you're going to lose the audience. And if you want to do another show, then do another show. But and that's another thing I don't understand. When the viewership is falling off and the show is not doing as well, you're going to make, what is this, like 8 spinoffs, and the other spinoffs that you have are just like, they're barely doing okay as it is. They're not groundbreaking, and it just seems like there's a lot of bad leadership over at AMC or whoever's running this right now. I don't know. It's really, really disappointing as a fan, just to be honest. And man, I mean, I love this show. I mean, I've been talking about this show since 2017. I've been watching this show since season 2. And man, it's just not, it's a shell of what it was. And even like wanting to get excited about it and wanting it to be good and wanting to give it a shot after they killed off Carl, after Rick left, and it just, and I know that it's hard to deal with coronavirus and like some real world stuff that you have to deal with. And I understand that. It's just not working. It's not working. So if Quin was here, he'd probably be bullshitting and telling me why it's good and getting me excited about it. But I just, man, my head's hurting and I'm just not having a good day. So I apologize if I've just been a grump the entire time. But man, I'll see you next week, and hopefully it'll get better. That's what I just keep hoping, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. It's just keep hoping that it's just going to get better, and this is the last season, so I'm going to watch every episode regardless, and I'm going to come on here regardless. But the show's had its ups and downs, and it's okay to have a bad episode. So I just really hope that it doesn't go out like Game of Thrones went out, where, I don't know, after Game of Thrones happened and the fans were disappointed and the last 3 seasons were cutting corners and disregarding the universe that they've built and the reality of spatial awareness on the map and how close things are to other places and travel time, all these different things. And these character development, they just like, okay, well, we need X to happen, so we're just going to make it happen instead of taking the time and writing it out and really, really making it good and making it understandable it's lazy writing and it just seems like, okay, we're just going to check this box so that we can move on to the next thing. And it's just really, really disappointing, especially when there's so much potential there. And so, yeah, I really hope that most of this kind of comes back around and proves me wrong and ties in and makes sense and really just surprises me. I would love that. I am rooting for that. I hope for that. But as of right now, the last 4 episodes have just been okay, and this is just, it's just meh, you know? So anyways, I think you guys, maybe you come and commiserate with me over The Walking Dead or not, I don't know. We'll see. But either way, thanks for joining me, and thanks for logging on and spending the time, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube or Twitch. Thank you, and don't forget to check out our other shows where we talk about other things that we do like. So if you follow us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, we really appreciate it, and you could subscribe and like and share. That's a huge deal. Thank you so much. And if you're interested in helping us do more, and then check out our Patreon links and our tipping links and all that kind of stuff. And don't forget to click the little bell so that you know when we drop new videos and when we go live and all that type of stuff. It is always a pleasure to get to interact with you guys. So hopefully we get to do more of that So thank you once again for joining us. And don't forget to check out the website at www.broken.pictures.com. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Peace.